Okie dokie, it is live. Hello world, hope you're doing very, very well. Happy weekend to everyone. Hope you're having a good Sunday if you're watching this on Sunday, or whatever day of the week it is for you as you're watching the recorded version, if that's what you're watching. Today we have a guest who is...
Angela, Passion for Dreaming on YouTube.
Yep, Angela from Passion from Dreaming. So, or Passion for Dreaming, right?
Passion for Dreaming, yes.
That's what I wrote in the title, so I thankfully got that right. Okay. So you guys know the drill. If you guys have seen my 5-minute language chats, pretty straightforward. We bring on a guest. We talk for roughly 5, maximum 10 minutes. And then we wrap it up. So I guess we'll jump right in. So Angela, tell us a little bit about you.
All right. So I'm from Pennsylvania in the United States, northeastern part, if you're not super familiar with the United States. I study Spanish, French, and Brazilian Portuguese, and I could speak those to a more conversational level. And then, of course, English is my native language. And then I have studied Korean and Polish more recently. And let's see, what else? I make some videos, tips for language learning, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
How long have you made videos now? Because I think I stumbled across your channel probably when you were in the hundreds of subscribers, like maybe 150 or like 200, something like that. But like, how long have you been making videos now? Oh,
I think I've been on there. This is hard to say because I've been active since I went abroad, which was 2 years ago. Almost, I was in 2015. And then I would say before that, I did make some language videos because there was this group that was called, what was it? It was a language practicing group by Hyunwoo-san from Talk to Me in Korean. And so people would just post videos every month. It was like a monthly update of your language learning. And that's when I started making YouTube videos. So I think I was still in high school. I might have been a senior. So I've been on YouTube for a while, but more consistently as of 3 years ago.
Nice. That's awesome. That's really great. And why did you get into that, like YouTubing and talking about languages online?
I guess at first, as I was saying before, it was because I was part of that group and I kind of wanted feedback on my Spanish and everything. And of course, to just track my progress in general. But abroad, I wanted to show people from back home what I was doing. So those were more travel-centered videos. But I did speak the language of the country I was in. So if I was in Spain, which I spent a semester in, I spoke in Spanish. But if I visited Portugal, I did that video in Portuguese. And then same with France. I was there for a semester. So I visited England, so I switched back to English. And then once I came back from being abroad, I thought, well, I kind of want to give language, I don't know, maybe I can bring a new angle to language learning that people haven't necessarily thought of. Like, these are the things that helped me, and hopefully they could help other people as well.
Interesting. That's really cool. And so I want to spend the bulk of the bulk of today about your master's program. You recently graduated from interpreting and translation. And so I thought it'd be interesting to talk a little bit more about how you found that program, like what really stood out from you. Like, I guess we'll start here. Like, why did you decide to do a master's in interpreting and translation?
Well, I knew that I wanted to do a master's degree, and I knew that I wanted it to be language-centered. So I had applied to programs in applied lingual as computational linguistics, second language acquisition, and then this one was in interpreting and translation studies. Now, the interesting thing that I learned was that this program is, if not the only one of the only programs that includes both interpreting and translation. Usually programs focus on one or the other.
And I guess my understanding is that interpreting is more...
Interesting fact.
Oh. Sorry, you cut out. Oh no.
Oh no.
You're back. Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say, like, so for interpreting, based on my understanding, is that more like spoken and then translations were written. Is that correct?
Yep, that's exactly it. That would be the main difference right there.
Nice. And what's your preference, interpreting or translation?
It's hard to say because going into that program, I would have definitely said translation because it's so nerve-wracking. Like with translation, you have time to fix what you're writing and everything. You can erase something if you don't like what you wrote. But in interpreting, it's on the spot. You don't have a lot. And then, of course, you could correct yourself, but it's just more intense to me than at least when it comes to doing. So going into the program, I would have said translation. But actually, after coming out of the program, I don't know. I would say, I mean, I like both, but I think I would prefer interpreting actually after doing my internship.
Interesting. Have you ever had any time where you're interpreting and you interpret something incorrectly in maybe a way where it's not just like a tiny, like a minor mistake, but something like, oh crap, that really was misinterpreted or mistranslated?
I would
Or not really?
say nothing like huge, but I, I usually wrong. They sorry, I don't understand, or could you say that again? And then I'd have to rephrase it.
Got it. Okay. Nice. Well, at least you haven't made any serious mistakes, and that's always because like so people tell me I should work in interpreting or translation, silent languages and everything, but it feels so clunky and unnatural to me because when I speak in a language, I think in that language, and it's very difficult for me to switch into another one and to switch back. And I get very, very confused, especially if it's English to another language. It's hard, but I can manage. If it's like one foreign language to another foreign language, that becomes a complete nightmare. And so I've always found it, like for me personally, it's very difficult. I guess how do you switch? How are you like constantly operating in two languages almost simultaneously without getting mixed up?
It's hard. I've actually, I have some funny stories about that. So my internship was in medical interpreting and stuff, and I was at a clinic. I wasn't in a hospital, so it was more laid back. It was still very, it was more laid back. It was mostly being in checkups and going between the doctor and the patient. And there were times where the would speak in Spanish because they knew a little bit and wanted to practice with their patients. And just because I was so zoned in interpreting, I wasn't realizing who was talking and my mouth was just moving. So sometimes when the doctor would speak in Spanish, I would just interpret it right into English without even realizing it. But yeah, it's hard. It is very taxing. People have done only, I would say, more recently now are focusing on doing some studies about the mental aspects of interpreting and what that can do to your brain and how it tires you out and like mentally, not just physically and stuff. So yeah, it can be difficult, but I think the more you practice, the more you get used to it. I would say for me, definitely as time went on, it was very helpful for me.
Hmm. So for someone who's kind of, let's say, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you're just really starting, I guess, your career in interpreting and translation. I'm assuming.
Yes.
Nice. So for someone who is just starting, I mean, do you find, just with your experience so far, that it's a career path that you would recommend to others that are maybe interested in language learning?
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that I'm interested in this career path because of
Yeah, like
language learning?
do you think you would would you recommend it for anyone else that is interested in language learning?
I would, but I want to throw a word of caution out there that this is something that we learned about, which was basically like it's more than just knowing another language. So if you know other languages, yes, that's good for both translation and interpreting, but it is more than just the knowledge you have of another language. Like there's so much more to both of those things. That's only part of it. And if you think that you can do either one of them just because you're bilingual or trilingual or whatever, you may find that it's harder than you think because there's interdisciplinary, like you need knowledge in other fields. It's good to have a specialty if you're looking for to freelance or something, it's good to have knowledge of something specific, like a niche. Yeah, you need to know how to manage stress well. You need to know how to work with other people. So interpersonal relationships and everything. It's more than just language and being able to speak it or
So I
write
guess
it.
what type of people would you recommend it for versus people you'd maybe caution or maybe not recommend it for?
Well, I guess I would say I'd recommend it for people who know that they want to go into that, because there were people who went into that program who knew, like, this is what I want to do for sure. I want to interpret or I want to translate. I would say, like, definitely that. People who are very detail oriented, I would say. People who, they train your memory in that program. At least the one I was in, we had to rewire our brains. So we did a bunch of memory exercises and things. So if you don't think you have a great memory, you may get to work on, depending on where you go. But I guess I would say for people who know that they want to do that already, then they definitely should. But for people who are like, oh, I'm not sure, like, maybe I should try that out, I would say take a class if you can, but maybe not jump right in, because, you know, you may end up finding out that you don't enjoy it and then you're kind of stuck.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, we can wrap it up there. I think we've been going for something like 10, 11, 12 minutes, something like that. So yeah, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Everyone, as per usual, Angela's social links are in the description, YouTube description below. So feel free to go have a look at her YouTube and her blog and her Twitter. And for the live people watching, you know, hit the like button if you liked the video. Dislike if you didn't like it, but I think a lot of you probably liked it. So yeah, any parting words, Angela?
Thank you guys for watching this. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you and actually meet you and be able to see you around YouTube and stuff. So thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Well, let's wrap it up there. See you guys.